Hey everybody, welcome to Don't Panic. Today we're really excited. I'm Jen Dennis and this is my co-host.
Lisa Milbrand.
And our goal today is to talk to you a little bit about the egg crisis that we're facing in the country right now.
Yes, and I know, eggs have gotten pretty expensive near us. We've been kind of trying to, reduce our egg eating. And I don't know, I know you talked a bit about in the past that you were being offered duck eggs and goose eggs. Has the situation changed? The egg situation?
Well, the duck and goose eggs are still out there, but our situation is changing in that, one day you go into the grocery store and it's just heaped with eggs, and the next day it's not. So I think that there's been a lot of price variation, just the sense that you maybe can't count on the eggs that you used to sort of take for granted being available.
For sure. And that's my daughter was home from college this week, and that is apparently what she's been eating most of, and she has eaten all of our eggs. So, so hopefully we will get some more. But why don't I sort of go into the problem? As we know, eggs have sort of become a luxury item. Everybody is joking that it's like caviar. But prices are topping like $9 a dozen in places like California. And the biggest reason for that is the bird flu, which I know a lot of people have heard about, H5N1, and it's killed 166 million chickens, along with wild birds and even some cows, cats, and a couple of humans. It is starting to get into the human population. It's highly contagious, and the virus is airborne, but also what happens a lot of times they think is, a wild bird that is infected with the bird flu poops somewhere on a farm, the animals eat it, and within hours, the chicken population is basically completely infected. Um, and the current,
What an appetizing beginning to a
I
post.
know,
That's right.
it's like let's eat
It's all
eggs.
about food, and let's start with that.
Let's all eat some eggs now. So currently, yeah, we're fighting it by either, hopefully there is a vaccine that they can give to chickens. I am not quite sure how they do that. Well, roll up the sleeve, inject it in the wing. I don't know, but that's one option of to sort of prevent the spread. They also, if it does infect chickens on a farm, they tend to what they call cull, which is kill the whole flock to stop the spread. Right now, the government is talking about doing what I'm calling a let it ride policy, which is to stop vaccinating or killing chickens and just see survival of the fittest, which ones make it. But the infectious disease experts, in an article which we'll be posting to the Substack, said that, quote, it's a recipe for disaster, and, quote, that's literally 5 million chances for that virus to replicate or mutate. So I'm not really keen about this idea. As you know, I'm the germaphobe of the two of us. So, so this is all making me very nervous. There's also the issue of natural disasters. We've had, hurricanes and wildfires, and obviously, in addition to, human life, that impacts a lot of farms as well. And they estimate that about 2 to 5 million birds died from Hurricane Helene just in Georgia last year. And, obviously, if they died, probably their barn or, the building they were in was also damaged. So it's not like they can, quickly start back up. They have to rebuild, and then you have to wait. We found out 18 weeks for new chickens to start laying eggs. So even if they, if the building was all right, they'd probably just be bringing new chickens online soon. So, um, and
I love the phrasing of bringing new chickens online because that is a very tech-centric way of expressing a livestock issue. So
there was a lot of talk about corporate greed with an association with groceries. But interestingly, a lot of stores, at least in the past, were charging less than what it cost them for the eggs in the hopes that then you would be like, ooh, cheap eggs, and I will come there and I will do the rest of my grocery shopping there.
we saw that. I've seen that in a local grocery store. Actually, just this week, yesterday, one of our stores advertised, "Hey, look how cheap our eggs are." And every single comment wasn't going to shop this week, but now I am. So it's an effective loss leader.
Yes, especially right now because everybody knows how expensive they are. So today, in order to answer all our questions about what to do about eggs and how to potentially substitute them, we found the perfect person, Nicole Walker, who started out in Hollywood before making a turn to culinary, into the culinary world with culinary school, and worked at Le Pain Quotidien, which I know I mispronounced. Before
Everybody does.
Yes, but before she started her own fabulous personal chef and catering business called Love and Plates, which makes both quiche and the most amazing quiche and does vegan baking. So I know you got us covered, Nicole. So, so how much are you thinking about eggs right around now with your business and your home life as well? So
I mean, it's something that you can't not think about. Like you said, we offer quiches every week. We do muffins. We do meatballs and meatloaf. Eggs really do play such an integral part in our work life and my home life. I have two teenage athletes. So, yes, eggs are a very valuable commodity, and I'm always playing with different ways to make those substitutions so that we can keep the eggs for like the really important things like runny egg, bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches.
excellent.
And then we can make use substitutes and replacements for the other processes.
I
Excellent.
That's fantastic. I think my first question for you is I am standing in the grocery store looking at an empty shelf. The cooler has 0 eggs in it. This is drawn from real life.
Yes.
In that moment, my instinct is going to be to panic.
Mhm.
And our theme, of course, is not to. So if I see the empty shelf, what is your first tip for me? What should I do?
Your first tip is to think about what you were going to use those eggs for, and then you start thinking about substitutions. What I'm finding is we for so long eggs were just something that we automatically bought, right? We didn't have to have a plan for them. You had to have eggs in the house. Now you really have to have a plan for them. Because you might not see them again, right? There are so many stores that are either completely out or they're limiting it to 1 dozen per person. So the first thing you're going to think about is what was I going to use them for? And then you're going to think about what your substitutions are.
Fantastic. So when you say substitutions, do you mean changing the entire recipe? Or do you,
No.
for instance, you were going to make muffins and now you're going to make crepes? I don't know what doesn't have eggs in it.
Oh, crepes have lots of eggs.
It's like a
You were,
lot of
you were
eggs.
going to make muffins and now you're going to make steak. Um, and or so choosing an entirely different recipe or choosing a substitution within a recipe.
So you don't have to, depending on what you're going to make, you don't necessarily have to completely change your menu. There are so many substitutions or alternatives. I don't really love the word substitution because it's got a connotation to it, right? But alternatives to what you were, unless again, you were going to make that runny egg, bacon, egg, and cheese, you can still make what you were going to make. You're just going to look for different products, a lot of which you probably already have in your house. I'll be completely honest with you. So you don't have to change your menu. You just have to think about it a little bit differently.
So, I guess, I would start with baking because I know there's a lot of great substitutions. Because for a little while, one of my daughters was, we were, getting rid of eggs as an
Yes.
allergy potential because
Yes.
potentially causing her eczema. It wasn't that, but
We try everything,
So,
right?
yeah.
Right.
So, like we were big users of like the Bob's Red Mill egg replacer
Yes.
for baking.
Yes.
Do you have favorites that you use?
I do. I do. And the thing to remember with baking is eggs perform a couple different functions, right? Like the proteins in the eggs are great for binders, but then they are pretty wet, right? So they're also a liquid. So depending on what you need to replace that egg for, you've got different options. If you're looking for moisture, applesauce is fantastic. I always recommend unsweetened. That way you can control the sweetness. A mashed banana is also a wonderful alternative for that egg again, and then watch your sweetness as well. Those are going to add moisture, but they're not going to add something like a binder or a lift, which are two other things that eggs do. So if you're looking for a binder, you're going to look at something like a flax egg or a chia egg, or like you said, Lisa, like an egg replacer, which is usually a combination of potato starch, psyllium husk, which is actually, I don't know if you know, psyllium husk is the seed of a plantain that is dried out and then crushed into a powder, and it's got a binding property to it. So that's usually mixed in with your potato flour and your tapioca starch, and that's going to give you the binder. That's what's in like your Bob's Red Mill or any of your other egg replacers. You can also, if you're looking for lift, right? Because if you're frothing your eggs for like a meringue or something like that, you just want some extra lift in your baked goods, you can use baking powder or baking soda. So those are both leaveners, and baking powder reacts to heat and baking soda reacts to an acid. So, and I can share with you with your listeners, we can write it down, but a combination of either distilled white vinegar or apple cider vinegar and baking soda will give you lift that is missing from an egg, or you can do baking powder and water. Either one of those, depending on what you have in your house, will replace that lift that you would get from the eggs. So in baking, those are going to be your go-tos. Again, we also mentioned chia seed and flaxseed. Those are both really great because they add fiber, they add omega-3s, they have tons of micronutrients that you would get from an actual egg. So for me, I think those are really great alternatives as well. They're cheap, they're shelf stable, they last forever. And each of those, you're going to mix 1 tablespoon of either the flax meal or the chia seeds with 3 tablespoons of water, and then let sit it in your fridge for 5 to 10 minutes, and it's going to gel. And then you're going to use that. And 1 tablespoon of flax meal or chia seed to 3 tablespoons of water equals 1 egg.
And we will write that down because I know.
Yes, I will send all that to you. You can share that with your listeners.
Yeah, I have started using the chia seed one myself.
They're great.
Yeah, and they're awesome.
Yeah, they're so healthy for you.
So I have a question for you. It sounds to me like all of those options that you've recommended are shelf stable, meaning they're not going to expire on you. So you might as well just stock up on them, even if the eggs are there today.
Correct. Your egg replacer that you buy, I would maybe keep it in the fridge if you're not going to use it very quickly. It'll hold in your fridge for about 3 months. It'll even hold in your freezer for about 6 months. And with all of your seeds, your flax and your chia, you can hold those in a sealed container in a dark place for probably 6 months, 4 to 6 months. It does give you a lot of options.
Fantastic. So it sounds to me, just to recap what we've learned so far, you're saying first, think about what the egg did for you. So if the egg, and I'm dumbing it down to my level. So if the egg was making something fluffy,
yes,
then we're looking for lift.
Yes.
And if the egg was making something stick together, like a meatball, then we're looking for the binder.
Yes.
So if I'm facing the empty cabinet, I say, oh my gosh, I was going to make meatballs. I need something to bind. Therefore, I should look like what's the easiest option for binding? Like for someone who wants the least complication in their life.
You're going to go with egg replacer because once it goes into that meatball or meatloaf mixture, the moisture is going to reconstitute that dry mix, and it's going to fluff itself up. It's going to reconstitute and hydrate.
And is the egg replacer the easiest choice for baking as well? For the lift?
It is, yes. You're going to want to follow the recipe package or the package recipe because you're going to mix it with some water. So that is going to be the easiest single grab off of the shelf at the store, right? Because it's got everything in it that you already need. I personally, though, really like the flax and the chia seed because they have so many other uses as well. So I'm a really big fan of multi-use as opposed to like single property in my whole life, right? Like for me, it's just easier. But yes, if you just want to buy one thing real quick, go ahead and grab that egg replacer package off of the shelf. It's usually in the baking area.
Fantastic. That's super helpful.
Yes.
Now, I think the trickier thing is like the quiches and things like
Yes.
that, and egg dishes, and obviously with like Passover and Easter coming up, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people wanting a lot of eggs right now. um,
Yeah, we love
so
our eggs.
so I know you mentioned to me before this about some ideas you've been toying with for like extending the eggs a little bit for quiche. Like what
Yeah.
kinds of things can you do when the egg is sort of the star of the show?
So when the egg is the star of the show, you're going to want to use your eggs, right? That's what you're going to save your eggs for. Um, you can also use liquid eggs. So liquid eggs are literally just regular eggs, and they've cracked them and they whisk them together. And there's usually some sort of like citric acid. Ooh, that's a rough one. Citric acid, which is a preservative, right? And there might be, a little bit of xanthan gum, something to kind of like thicken and emulsifier. Things I don't love xanthan gum, but nothing that you really have to worry about. So those are great if that's your only option. And then you're going to use a little bit more, say, heavy cream for a quiche, right? Or a regular whole milk if you're making a frittata, right? You're going to stretch that liquid a little bit, and you're going to put lots of things in it, right? Because the more volume of your fillings, the less egg you need, right? You need just enough to hold it all together. So I would say that's when you're saving your eggs and you're going to think about how much filling can I put in? Add some extra cheese, add some extra veggies. It's Easter, throw up some diced ham in there. So that's really how you're going to stretch it.
Awesome.
Yes.
And what about like things like, we did mention crepes, and I know that and eggs are like a integral component of that, and it's a very
They
eggy bake.
are.
Would like something like a flaxseed work in that or not really?
So unfortunately, in a crepe, it's not going to work because crepe batter is essentially whisked, like really frothy whisked eggs held together with like the smallest amount of flour needed. So this would also be a good time to use your liquid eggs. Liquid eggs also can be frozen. I don't know if you know that, but if you put them in a container and you leave enough headspace, right? Because liquid expands when it freezes. So leave enough headspace so that when it freezes, it's got room to expand. That is an option as well. So you could use liquid eggs for crepes. I would maybe save an egg or two and like add an extra like yolk in there to give it like that beautiful yellow color that crepes have. But liquid egg is fine for crepes. And those don't seem to be in shortages. I'm seeing them everywhere right now still. So
Which is intriguing to me.
I know. And I'm not really sure what to make of that because truly, like, it is eggs. So, but I think because it's got preservatives and it's shelf stable, um, it is an option.
As far as storing eggs, I know you mentioned liquid eggs, and I've seen in some articles mentioning freezing eggs. That the way
Mhm.
to do that is scramble them first.
Yes, absolutely. You want to scramble them first. You want to mix up those proteins from the yolk and the egg together. Otherwise, the yolk will get really grainy and weepy, and then it'll just kind of disintegrate. Anyways, when you thaw them out, so it's just easier to just crack a dozen, whisk them all up, and then again, you can put them in deli containers. Just leave like an inch or two at the top for expansion. Always date them too before you put them in the freezer, so you know when you put them in there.
Now, are you doing that right now to sort of hedge your bets for?
I am not. I really am just we've made some changes on our menus. We used to offer two quiches every week. Now we offer one. Um, so we're alternating. We used to offer one vegetarian and one meat. Now we're alternating week to week. I really am not stashing eggs right now. I have got some good local sources, and there's always Costco, and Costco right now is still their eggs are still very reasonably priced, and everyone that I've been in has them. So I think for me personally, especially with the business, if we get to the point where we cannot get our hands on them, we just won't use them. We will go to our substitutes and alternatives, and I would rather I would rather make those substitutions and offer those alternatives than to have to stash them somewhere.
Easter, decorating eggs is a thing.
We're talking about that. Yes.
And obviously, maybe people don't want to hard boil 2 dozen eggs and then
Right.
have
And then
them.
eat pink eggs afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Any creative options that you've thought of, or that might be a fun activity with kids that maybe does not involve using precious eggs?
Precious commodity. Yukon potatoes.
Really?
Because they're light in color and they've got a very like soft skin, so they will accept color and dye. And if you can find the ones that are like roughly the same size as an egg, they'll dip into your little pause, cups and things like that. Like they fit in that little dipper. So Yukon potatoes are a fun option. You could do like the plastic eggs, like not that we love plastic, right? But like grab a dozen plastic eggs and you can paint on them, get like the paint markers, things like that. Those are always an option. What else are we doing? And rocks and stones are also fun too. So I think those are 3 different ways that you can continue your egg dyeing, egg decorating traditions without sacrificing eggs.
Any other advice that you have for us that, that you think we haven't covered as far as how to, actually, there was one thing I wanted to ask. Have you used aquafaba, like for?
Yes, that's what I was going to mention next is aquafaba. So aquafaba, if you don't know, is the cooking liquid of chickpeas primarily. Other beans can be used as well, but chickpeas really are magic. So when you open up a can of chickpeas, all of that like starchy liquid in there, if you drain that off of your chickpeas, that you can make. I have a vegan pastry chef on my staff, and so we use it for buttercream frosting.
Oh.
We've used it for pavlovas. We've used it to make mayonnaise. We've used it for pasta, substituting the egg in an egg pasta. Aquafaba is absolute magic, and you get it free with your can of chickpeas. So absolutely play around. There's a lot of recipes online right now, and it contains proteins, it contains starches, it contains so much nutrition, and it will foam up like if you wanted to use it in a chocolate mousse. You can use it, you can season it with like salt and pepper and garlic and take chicken cutlets and dip chicken cutlets in there and use that to make cutlets, like if you're going to bread them. Same thing as with an egg. You're going to dip it in the egg, dip it in flour, dip it in egg, dip it in breadcrumbs, and then let it rest. I don't know if this is a little trick for you guys when you're making cutlets. Once you bread them, you want to let them sit for about 20 minutes so that egg protein will dry and you won't lose your coating to the pan. It's the same with the aquafaba. Let it sit and dry, and the proteins in the aquafaba or the egg will dry and will stick that coating to your chicken, and then you won't lose it when you fry it. So aquafaba is absolute magic. And I recommend it even after this whole egg thing passes. I think that it's such wonderful kitchen magic. And I'm a huge, huge fan of it.
Every once in a while, I get a tip from cooking, and it just makes me think, who thought to try that the first time?
I know, right? I know. And I'm always really, like I said, I have a vegan cook on staff, and like some of the things that she has taught me, and I'm pretty well versed, right? And I've been in this business 20 years, but when she was like, oh, can you save me the chickpea aquafaba? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, tomorrow we're going to sit down and you're going to explain all this to me. And now the things that we do with it is amazing.
I think it starts with the name, actually, because I would have called that the goop. And I think when you elevate it with the name Aquafaba, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now this is something we can work with.
It's like they got cauliflower's marketing guy, right? It's like all of a sudden, we all know what aquafaba is. It's yes.
And it's nice and cheap because like you said, it's free, but I mean, it's not like a can of chickpeas is that expensive.
Right.
So, and you get the
Exactly.
chickpeas that, so.
Exactly. And anybody who cooks their beans from scratch, they've got it too, right? So it's the cooking liquid, and then when they package canned chickpeas, they just take some of that liquid and put it in the can. So even if you're making your chickpeas from dried at home, you've got it.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. I think I think that it's been really helpful that your ideas are coming at a bunch of different levels. That sort of the things you can do in prep, the things you can do if there's some right now, and there won't be some later, or the things that you can do just in general that you might, because now the aquafaba thing, I'm going to try that just because it sounds so crazy that I just have to see it work.
Yes, and let me know how it really, like, you're going to be amazed.
I think you need to video it, Jen, so we can.
Yes, please, and share it.
Bloopers for all. That Lisa just wants to see the train wreck that is me in the kitchen. Don't let her fool you.
No.
Okay, well, to be fair, she worked at Gourmet, so she.
Oh, you must have gotten something from osmosis. Come on.
I did a bit.
You.
My role at Gourmet was really, they would ask, I was the idiot proof test on recipes. So they would show me directions and say, okay, what would you do? And then you would either get, okay, it's clear, or, oh, we need to make that clearer. So I was much more the dummy, the crash test dummy for the kitchen.
Oh, no.
So I know you took a ton of notes, Nicole. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you would want to share with us? Because I know you have so much.
Let me just look at my notes.
Knowledge.
I feel like we really kind of hit some of really everything that I really wanted to talk about. Yeah, I would say don't be afraid. Like, don't stress, don't panic, right? Because there is a fix for everything. And just because we are so used to having this readily available commodity doesn't mean that all the things we enjoyed from it has to stop. There's always going to be a solution, and it may not be exactly as it was with the original egg, but it's still going to be so good, and it's going to be worth it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your help with this. It's really, I think a lot of us were just struck dumb when you walk in and you do expect to see what you expect to see in the grocery store, and suddenly it's changed.
No, absolutely. And just so you know, in my world as well, it's been crazy. Like, the prices have been so out of control. Like, we watched our egg prices more than double in 6 weeks. So wow. We were also originally dumbfounded, but I think it's because it's our job to like figure solutions out. Like, we were doing it too, but we are happy to pass our knowledge on to you and hope that it makes your life a little bit easier.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. This was so great, and I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us.
You're welcome. So thank you so much for having me.
So that was fantastic, Nicole. Thing was amazing, with lots of great ideas for how to redo.
Yeah, not just great ideas, but also like totally unexpected ideas. I did not think beans and potatoes were going to be like meaningful substitutes. So I thought that was really, interesting, a different way of approaching things.
Technically, you could dye those potatoes and then make like mashed potatoes or something with them, I guess. So, because the pause dyes are all food safe. So,
well, when she first said potatoes too, I was thinking you're going to peel the potatoes and then dye the flesh of the potato, and I'm like, that's disgusting. But then when she explained that it works with the skin, now I'm like, oh, okay.
So I came up with a few other options if potatoes is not your bag and you don't want to use your eggs for the egg coloring. So you can decorate the plastic eggs as Nicole mentioned, and some other things if you don't want to use paints, because paint is another level of mess with children. You could use washi tape or like the decorative tapes like that, or stickers and things like that are a little bit less messy. Like, I mean, even with the egg dye, it was always a disaster. So my kids are older now. They have those like egg molds that you can use, and you can make Jello eggs with those, and then maybe just decorate them with a little bit of sprinkles. The other thing you could do is use those with like white chocolate, and you can dye the white chocolate different colors and create like white chocolate eggs. Some people I've been seeing on TikTok have been dyeing marshmallows, which is a really fun idea.
I
Um,
love that.
and I did ask the pause person whether you could do that with the pause kit and still eat the marshmallows, and she said absolutely, as long as you don't use, because usually, as you know, having as a fellow pause kit connoisseur, you usually use vinegar in it, and obviously that wouldn't be a choice with that, like to just use the dyed tablet and the water. So no vinegar unless you want a different marshmallow taste experience. So the other thing you can do if you have older kids like I do now, is blowing eggs, which is where you make holes on either side of the egg. You gently blow the egg insides out, and then you wash it and dry it, and then you can paint it. But obviously, as you can imagine, this is a very delicate operation, not for toddlers.
I love that. I wouldn't do it because I, like a toddler, would struggle, but I appreciate the idea for the people who are a little more crafty and delicate-handed.
Are you going to try the aquafaba? That's what I want to know.
Yes, I am. I actually, chickpeas are something we have a lot of, so I am going to give it a shot just because, to be quite honest, it sounds so weird that I have to test it to know it's true. So, not that I don't believe, but it's just so crazy that I have to see.
Yeah, we will have to have an update on this in one of our next episodes. So
Yes.
so so I think that wraps it up for this egg edition of Don't Panic, and we will be back with you with more exciting
Excellent ideas. I waited till the very end.
Oh, you
I
tried
have
so
so many
hard.
puns that I've been holding back. I did my best.
Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we will see you again soon.